afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the Women's Entrepreneurial Opportunity Project 2022 Economic Equity Business Forum. This will be a conversation series where we bring women together for engaging discussions to share resources and discuss challenges and explore strategies that will break down challenges and create ladders of opportunity for Black, Indigenous women of color. And joining our discussion today is a group of dynamic women from a range of backgrounds from corporate, academic, community, and business sectors. This group consists of dedicated community and business professionals with the vested interest of collective organizing to tackle the issues and challenges that continue to plague women of color in business. And I am excited to join WEOP today. This is actually my second opportunity to serve in this capacity with WEOP, and I must say that I'm really inspired by all of the women who are a part of this collective, personally and professionally. So just a little bit about me. I am a segment producer for the Black News Channel. So my mind is actually happening in news today. We had some breaking news, but I'm fortunate to produce content for our community every day. And I've had the opportunity to spotlight and lift some of the women who will be participating in this forum. We've been able to book segments for them to give them an opportunity to share more about their work to help women of color. I will also say too that this is the time right now in news and really in the business world to elevate women of color. The George Floyd movement continues to provide opportunities for women to be elevated to C-suite opportunities. And we're seeing that more and more across the sector. Every day that I log on to LinkedIn, I see that another Black woman has been elevated to a higher level, to an executive position. And that makes me so proud. And I must say too, that as an entrepreneur myself, I see the growing rate in our demographic of opportunities for us to seize this moment. So again, thank you to WEOP for organizing this forum so that we can take a deep dive into the solutions and challenges and obstacles so we can support each other. Let's start the discussion with a few of the women making things happen behind the scenes. Antoinette Ball, one of the founders of WEOP, and the other founder, Marionette Ball, yes, her twin sister. And they will be joined by Sandra Scott. She is a Georgia House of Representatives from the 76th District. So Antoinette, I will pass the virtual microphone over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. And I have a little bit of bad news. I wanted to share with the audience that we had scheduled Representative Kim Schofield, and unfortunately, she's in the hospital because they suspect that she might be having a heart attack. So I want to make sure that we keep her in our prayers because this was totally unexpected. And just to give you a little background, Representative Schofield has been an incredible partner for WEOP in terms of supporting all of our events. And she's just out there just making things happen for women and women entrepreneurs. So I just kind of wanted to share that because she's always been with us. And this was just so unexpected. So again, as Lindsay said, my name is Antoinette. I'm one of the founders of WEOP, the organization. And first and foremost, before I start anything, I would like to say thank you. Extend a thank you to our sponsor, Bank of America, also to all of our community partners, which includes Moving Forward in Georgia, Emory University, the Consuelo School of Business, as well as Bank of America, and just for supporting WEOP. Sponsorship make things happen for us, so that's really great. I want to also say thank you to all the phenomenal women who are around us and who continue to support what we do as an organization, including our planning committee, the Coalition of Women in Neighborhoods. We have some phenomenal women on the planning committee who are on the call today, from Kim Hughes, to everyone just helping us make things happen. Juanita Phillips, Pamela Bivens. I want to say really extended thank you to you. And of course, I want to say thank you to all the speakers today for volunteering your time and just coming and sharing that incredible information to our whole host of women. If you're not familiar with WEOP, we are a nonprofit organization located in Atlanta, Georgia. We launched our organization in 1999, and we have over 20 years of experience within the communities. And for the last 2 decades, we have touched thousands of women. We, as an organization that is led and founded by women of color. And for all the people that support us, I want to say thank you. We continue to have ongoing programming and things that we think are beneficial to help and support women. And with all this uncertainty going on, we know that this is a critical time for everyone. And we just want to really in 2022, keep our commitment firm to everything that we do is guided for the economic advancement for women of color and how we can be innovative in our approach, how we can have useful programming, how we can be a part of initiatives that really push the needle and move us forward. We have some incredible members as well. Everybody on the call, I want to thank you for being on the call and basically for supporting us as an organization. And as you know, this year, we look forward to a lot of challenges, but I think if we keep working together collectively with these incredible partnerships, that we can make things happen and then we can move the needle. And that's why I think that this event is so important today, because if we continue having conversations, if we continue having in-depth conversations about what's going on and bringing issues to life, bringing these phenomenal women together to discuss and to talk about how we can be strategic and innovative, that we can continue moving the needle. So on behalf of WeOp, myself, the co-founder, and everybody that surrounds us, our Coalition Women's Economic Network, I want to say thank you. And I want to say we look forward to a great conversation. I did notice that Sandra Rose just entered the waiting room. So Latasha, if you can pull her in. Hi, Sandra. I'm sorry, Sandra Scott, excuse me, that we can begin our conversation, Lindsay. And thank you, Sandra Scott, for being with us and for stepping in. I shared the bad news with our audience. So really thank you for just taking a few moments and joining our conversation. So Lindsay, I'm gonna turn it over to you, our great moderator, and you can kind of spearhead the conversation.
All right, thank you so much, Antoinette. Well, I know that we are all looking forward to these next 2 hours of engaging dialogue. So please take notes, please engage with us in the chat so that we can feel like we're together in person, although we are connected virtually. So joining Antoinette on stage is Sandra Scott. She currently serves as a member of the following committees: Defense and Veterans Affairs, Human Relations and Aging, Science and Technology, Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment, and Special Rules. And I should note that she is a Georgia House of Representative from the 76th District. Welcome so much to this WeOp Forum, Representative Scott.
Thank you. And it's good to be here with you all this afternoon. You all have to give me, but I am ready to begin. And again, I am State Representative Sandra G. Scott. I serve District 76 out of Clayton and Henry County. This is my 12th year in the General Assembly, and I would just say it is starting off with a lot of excitement. And I'll let you all go ahead and so we can get started.
Wonderful. So the purpose of this conversation is to talk about the importance of civic engagement. Representative Scott, can you just give us an overview of what's happening right now at the state capitol as it relates to women in business?
Well, right now, what is happening at the state capitol, we really, this is just our 12th day. We really haven't really dug down into any meaningful legislation yet. Right now, we are dealing with reapportionment, dealing with the county and city maps. And I can tell you that it is a roller coaster. The games are not being played fair. So we're in a battle and a fight for our life right now under the Gold Dome. So we really have not gotten into any bills per se that really dealing with too much. A lot of homestead exemption bills that they're trying to push through, but you know, they require a 2/3 vote. And so they're dying on the floor because they require 2/3 vote. But the other parts of the reapportionment, the maps, things to that nature, they are moving those forward. And we used to have something called a local rule. The local rule is not a local rule. if you serve in a predominantly African-American neighborhood. They are taking control over the local rule and making those into general bills. So like I say, right now we're in a fight. We're in a fight, but we are not going to give up the fight. So that is what's happening under the Gold Dome as of right now. Probably later on in the session, we may get to hear about some bills that will benefit women-owned businesses. But right now, those types of bills have not come to the floor. And I do have a bill, House Bill 6, that would provide for income tax credit for investors in women-owned businesses. It would also provide for the registration with the Commissioner of Revenue and provide for conditions and limitations and provide for a recapture, provide for, just the rules and related matters that dealing with this income tax credit that we're trying to get. And so that is one piece of legislation I have dealing with women-owned businesses.
Representative Scott, you have a heavy lift and certainly some challenges ahead, but we know that you are equipped and will certainly advocate for women in business as you are on the floor, fighting for the rights of women and entrepreneurs of color. I'm going to transition now to you, Antoinette, as we talk about women in business and looking at WeOps initiatives. What are some of the core elements for building a strong ecosystem of support within WeOp? Representative Scott will obviously represent, the political landscape, civic engagement, but we look at what WeOp is doing to support women so that we can fuse these two entities together. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, one of the things I think are very important with WeOp is having strategic partnerships. Because, not one entity can do everything, but as we come together and create this whole ecosystem of support, and that is having partners that can come in and expand and support everything we do as an organization. And I think one thing that has helped us be successful in what we're doing is bringing a host of people to the table. And we have a board of directors, we have a advisory board, and we have committees that help us support what we do as an organization. We don't want to keep making decisions in a silo. We want other women to come in and be vocal and say, okay, this is what's beneficial for me as a business owner. This is what kind of support that I need. And again, not one organization can do everything. Because in these times of uncertainty, there's so many things that are going on we need to think about. And the things that were done in the past, we need to really maybe rethink, because if you look at the average revenue for women-owned businesses, it's $24,000. So maybe we need to think about more innovative approaches. Maybe we need to think about how we can go outside of training and connect women to contracts. So in the scheme of things, WeUp is always looking as a nonprofit organization, how can we take an innovative approach to what we do? And how can we strategically get other partners to support us as an organization? So it expands our resources, it expands our reach, it expands our ability to be innovative. And that's why partnerships like we have an MOU with Emory University, the Sweater School of Business, just coming in and saying, we need to rethink what is going on. We are still challenged. Our businesses are still having barriers, especially as women of color. So what can we start moving toward? And as an organization, WeUp is making sure that we keep a lens on doing that. On how can we be constructive as an organization overall?
So there's strength in numbers, and you reference strategic partnerships. What, Representative Scott, when we think about partnerships, how can entrepreneurs really tap into the resources and offerings that are provided by the state of Georgia? And what are some strategies that business owners can use to stay connected to the legislature to really maximize those strategic partnership opportunities?
Well, one thing that small business owners or anyone could do, if you have some legislation that you would like to see introduced or you would like to have put up, that is where you contact your legislator. you contact your legislator and you tell them that you have a bill that you would like to have introduced into the General Assembly, and they should take your bill and have it drawn up, and it could be introduced into the General Assembly. You know, like the bill that I was talking to you about, House Bill 6, it came from the Southern Crescent Women in Business. This is something that they wanted to do. They wanted to put this bill up and wanted actual tax credit for small women-owned businesses. And so when they came to me, you know, as a legislator, you know, that is my duty. That is my responsibility. If someone come to me and they want legislation drafted, you know, I feel that it is my responsibility to have that legislation drafted. And let the individual, when they get it and they go back and they look at it, and then they have to get out on the groundworks and get out the fight to make sure that they can get that bill heard. It's a process. Once I have the legislation drafted and get the signatures, it goes into the hopper. And once it come out of the hopper, then that bill is assigned to a committee. It's assigned to a committee. And like this bill is signed to the Ways and Means Committee. That is committee that really that delves out the money and do what they do. So once it's assigned to a committee, it's time for the person that wanted the bill author, it's time for them to start fighting so that we could get a hearing on the bill. It is my job and responsibility to go to the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I would like to have a hearing and a vote on House Bill 6 that deals with female entrepreneurs, small business ownership, tax credit. I make that connection, but also the author of this bill, the person that gave it to me, it is for them to go back to all of their business partners and say, hey, we need to call, we need to email the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee and tell them we would like to have a hearing and a vote on House Bill 6. And, you know, we're going to have to fight for it. You know, they're not giving us anything. So you're going to just have to constantly be on it. You're going to have to show up and let them know that, hey, you're going to have to lobby the people that sits on the committee, lobby the chairman of that committee, and ask them, let them know that you want to hear and a vote on the bill. And that is how bills are done. A lot of time, and you get enough people to come out, enough people to stand up and support your wants, a lot of times they would give you a hearing. But, you know, just not enough to have a hearing. You must have a hearing and a vote, because the vote is the thing that takes it into the next step, which is the rules. And the rules, then you have to ask for votes again. And once you get out the rule, then it's come to the floor of the House. And it go through the process where the speaker can call it, he may not call it. But still the phone calls and the emails and coming down to the Capitol trying to speak to him, that doesn't change. You do that till the bill have gotten all the way to the governor's desk. Because once it leaves the House, it goes to the Senate. And you back over with the same process again, starting from the same steps. You know, some they may change it, they may not change the language, but that is the way you get it done. You know, we have to, like I said, it's a fight, and we all have to fight. We have to fight for what it is that we want. And, you know, they make knock it down time. You know, it's my job. This bill is on a 2-year cycle. So if don't get any traction on it this year, next year I will introduce it again. And I will continue to introduce it as long as I'm here until we can get a hearing and a vote for it, because I think it is something that is very much needed here in the state of Georgia.
So what I'm hearing, Representative Scott, is that you need the support of WEOP and other small business owners, women small business owners, to support the fight by lobbying, by making phone calls until this bill is pushed all the way through to receive that vote, hopefully a positive vote, so that women business owners can get a tax credit, which is an incentive to keep them motivated and encouraged to continue to do the work in their various communities. Miss Antoinette, back to you about—
Can I add something? I wanted to add
Sure.
something very important to what Representative Scott said. And she talked about how an organization actually introduced this House Bill number 6. And I want to just point to the power that sometimes that we think we don't have any power to do things. And that's one thing, like Kim Schofield, she encourages our entrepreneurs to really be actively engaged. It's like, you can introduce a bill, you can be instrumental pushing things forward. And that's why we wanted to really, this is an important part of what we do as an organization, is educate women. You have the power to amplify your voices. If it means creating a bill, pushing it, even being part of WeUp and saying this is what we need to do, then that is so powerful, because we think that we can't make things happen. So we need to be a part of this fight, a part of really having the power to introduce bills, and to not only when they're introduced, to monitor, to read it, because there are decisions that are being made that impact us as business owners, and we're not at the table. And that's the message that we want to keep emphasizing from an organization point of view, is that we do need to be at the table. We do need to be pushing. We need our women entrepreneurs, not only, we know that you spend a lot of time running your businesses, but come out and take the leadership role as well, to make sure these things happen and that we're behind it.
Have a voice not only in the boardroom, in the conference room, but really make your voice be known at the state level, at the legislature, so that these bills can pass and support women entrepreneurs.
And we know as a nonprofit, we cannot do any kind of political pushing, but we can make people aware. We can create awareness. We can't get behind, but we can definitely create awareness and help them understand that civic engagement is a cornerstone to making sure that they have a voice in what's being said and the bills are being made, etc. So I kind of want to emphasize that.
Okay.
Just curious, Representative Scott, what is the process? What is the timeline to see a bill through to the voting stage?
We have 40 days here, 40 days. And we be fighting and trying to get bills through even on the last day. We'll get out of session on April the 4th will be our last day. So we fight until the last day. The fight doesn't stop. And even when session is over, it still have to be conversation had on bills like this. Still have to be conversations had on how we could come together and work together so that we will be able to come back the next year still full of fight to get the bills through. During the downtime, that is when we create legislation. Over the downtime, we create legislation that we're gonna bring forth. At any time, you could ask a legislator about a piece of legislation or the carried piece of legislation. Our attorneys, they work all through when we get out of sessions, they still work because they're employees of the state. So it's always opportunities to get legislation done. But I will say one thing that, like I talked about the Southern Crescent Women in Business that is located down in Henry County, Clayton, in those areas. All these organizations have to come together for the good and come up with a day where they could come to the Capitol and they could talk to legislators that they see around, because and definitely the ones that are on the committee where this bill goes through. And right now you can't come, so I would say you get an email and your pen and your phone out and you start calling, texting, and emailing them and ask them for a hearing and a vote on a bill that is going to benefit you all. And I'm glad to see someone put it in the chat box.
Yes, yeah.
And what you do, if you want to look up all bills that deal with small businesses, you just type small businesses opportunities in the search engine, and that will give you, pull up all the bills that are out there. I'll just say make sure that you read them, because if you have any questions, it'd be a good thing to shoot an email to Kim, or you can shoot it to myself, or whomever your legislator may be. If you have questions about a particular piece of legislation that gonna have an impact on you all as small business owners, entrepreneurs, make sure that you look at all the legislation that they have coming forth that deal with small businesses.
And I want to add one quick thing, because we're going to keep in contact with Representative Kim Schofield, because it's our intention as an organization to keep our entrepreneurs aware and on top. So we do have a monthly newsletter that we're making sure that we provide this educational and awareness information to make sure our entrepreneurs understand the significance and the importance of having a pulse on what goes on in the state capitol. So I really want to thank you. And again, we can't have real in-depth conversations because we're going to be moving fast with our discussions today. But Representative Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. And our thoughts are going to be with Kim Schofield, because she was unable to join us because of her health emergency. But thank you for stepping in. We know your time is valuable and critical. So we appreciate you and everything that you do in the state capitol.
Well, thank you all. And, if I can be of
Representative.
service, please let me know. But Kim and I work very close together. So, we all about doing what we can for the people that we represent and for the people of Georgia, because, we are here to represent you. We are here because of you. And so we always try to give 100 plus to our constituents to let them know that we are doing all that we can to make Georgia a better place for us to live, work, and play. So
I like that.
Thank you all for the opportunity, and I look forward to speaking with you all again in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much to Representative Scott. We have received our charge as women in business. And if you're located in Georgia, you have your marching orders. Get on the phone, text, reach out to your state representative to advocate, to lobby, to make sure that these bills that will benefit you as women in business, make sure that they get all the way through the stage to get that positive vote. So we've talked about civic engagement, and now we know exactly what to do. But now we're going to transition and talk about the resources for women in business. It's critical resources. So we have some women here who are spearheading some dynamic initiatives that continue to move the need for women in business, especially for women of color. So we're going to hear from women in the corporate, academic, and nonprofit sectors. Terry Block is a senior vice president of the Atlanta market executive for Bank of America. She joined Bank of America back in 2013, and she helps connect the banking and investment resources offered through the bank's 8 lines of business to companies, families, and individuals across Metro Atlanta. Welcome, Ms. Block. Jessica Taylor is the national director of 10,000 small businesses for Goldman Sachs, and in her role, she helps entrepreneurs create jobs and economic opportunity by providing access to education, capital, and support services. Great to see you again, Jessica. We had the pleasure of producing a segment for the Black News Channel to highlight Jessica's work. And Emily Oxel, did I pronounce that right, Emily? Emily O'Leary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Emily Oxel O'Leary. She's the owner and CEO of Green Clear Solar. She's worked for many Fortune 500 companies across the nation, including Amazon, L'Oreal, Target, Perry Ellis, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we just welcome all 3 of you to the forum. Terry, I'll start with you. Bank of America has a $1.25 billion racial equality and economic opportunity commitment. There are a lot of challenges as it relates to women of color or people of color receiving access to capital. But what is Bank of America's commitment to supporting women of business? What does that look like? And Terry, I believe you're muted. Okay, now it looks like you're connecting to audio. Okay, we'll give her just a moment. Give us an audio check there, Terry. Okay, we'll let you get situated with audio, and I'll move to Jessica. Hi there again, Jessica. Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Initiative, which is so dynamic. It's a program that supports women on their entrepreneurial journey. How is that initiative really benefiting women right now? Where do you stand in the process and the progress of this initiative?
Yeah, so good to be here. And Antoinette, we've had a lot of conversations recently. We probably need to get on the calendar again for tomorrow, if not early next week. But it's been great, chatting with you as of late on some of the new work that we're doing on the Goldman side, and I can talk a little bit about that. But Lindsay, great to connect with you again. And with respect to 10,000 small businesses, I mean, we were still kind of very much full steam ahead. We've now served actually over 1,000, more like 1,200 Black women entrepreneurs across the country since the program launched, and we're looking to do more. I think one of the key things that we did at the height of the pandemic is we looked at our eligibility criteria, and we said, how can we make the program more accessible by adjusting our eligibility criteria, recognizing that particularly a lot of our kind of Black and brown businesses in the past may have not met that criteria. And when you took into account the impacts of the pandemic, many businesses were smaller than they were, of course. And so we're now at, we went from 150 in minimum revenue to 75,000. So we cut that in half. We went from kind of 4 employees to 2, and then, kept the requirement of having been in business at least 2 years. So with that, we wanted to make 10 KSB, a bit more accessible. And then we also continue to operate the program, again, across all 50 states through a combination of brick and mortar partnerships, as we like to call them, as well as our national cohort model, which is a blended learning model of online and in person. And so, of course, during the pandemic, we found that we had to switch all of that to virtual. And in doing that, we found, and we heard particularly from Black women, that it made it more accessible for them. And so what we're looking to do, I think, for our brick and mortar programs, or the partnerships that we have with community colleges and cities across the country, I think we're on track to likely bring those back in person, because there's just a tremendous amount of learning that happens among the businesses themselves when they're in person. And we were able to mimic some of that virtually. But what we're also looking to do is really beef up that hybrid learning model, that national cohort model, so that we can continue to keep the flexibility that virtual allows. And one of the things that we innovated on within that national cohort model at the end of last year is we brought all of those businesses to Goldman Sachs headquarters at the end of their experience for kind of a capstone, to wrap up their coursework, to connect with our leadership. Our CEO, David Solomon, came down and connected with the businesses. And so we're looking to kind of do that again going forward, kind of support businesses in an all expense paid trip to Goldman Sachs. And so those are ways that, despite having been around we've been around for 12 years, and so we have a tremendous legacy, but we also need to continue to be innovative and meet folks where they are. And so those are ways that we've done that with 10,000 small businesses.
And I'm curious to know, Jessica, what exactly do entrepreneurs learn during this program? Like, can you give us an example of one of those lessons or courses or experiences?
That's right. So it's a 12-week curriculum, and we cover all the topics that are core to any business owner as we're thinking about growing their business. So from managing your financials, to operations and processes, to hiring and retaining talent, to understanding your leadership style, to delivering mock pitches as if you're seeking capital and getting feedback on those, of course, marketing and selling. And so we cover all of those core topics. I would say, in kind of auditing the course over the years myself, and in speaking to businesses who have completed the program, they find the pedagogy and the way that the curriculum is delivered to be really impactful. So they're not just kind of sitting in class listening to a faculty member, in the case of the financial statements mod, kind of go through the financials of some large Fortune 500 company. That's not relevant to a small business owner, right? Instead, that faculty member will say, we'll spend maybe the first 20 minutes of class kind of going through some key concepts, right? And then say, now, let's look at your own individual finances, right? Let's open the book on your own financial statements, and let's actually apply these concepts to your business right now. And so that's been kind of one of the things that I've heard most frequently from our businesses around one of the things they find most valuable, right? They're walking away with tangible takeaways. and they know how to apply those concepts to their business as they think about growth. The second thing that is kind of unique to our program is this growth opportunity. So throughout the course of the program, business owners work to identify a growth opportunity and then to refine that opportunity during the course of the program. And really what that sets the business owner up to do is at the end of the program, they have some tangible next steps for growth, right? So it culminates in an actual plan that they can deliver on. And they've thought through, during the course, they've thought through the financial soundness of that plan, right? Is it going to hit my bottom line in a profitable way? They've worked through with the support of their business advisors and fellow cohort members, what changes may I need to make to my operations so that I can execute on this growth opportunity? What do I have to do within my staff in order to execute the opportunity? Do I need to hire new people? Do I need to let go of inefficient people, right? What ways do I need to change my culture within my business in order to achieve this opportunity? And then of course, marketing and sales. How do I assess, customer response to this new business line, right? Or this new product or service that I'm offering as part of the growth opportunity? How do I assess that? How do I then market to these customers and over time make them loyal customers? And so all of that, right, represents kind of the learning in the program, but it's by way of like real tangible examples that folks are going to leave the program with.
So I just have to know, and I'm curious, is the program open now to applicants? Are you still receiving applicants? Because I'm sure a lot of women who are watching today's forum may want to sign up. How does that work? How does that process work? An application? What's the criteria?
Yes. So we essentially applications are rolling, right? So you could always go to 10ksbapply.com and submit an application. If you are in one of the cities where we have our brick and mortar partnerships with community colleges, you'll be able to kind of select that on a drop down. If you're not located in one of those cities, then you can do that national cohort program that I spoke to. You can select that. And it's a 10-minute online application. And so you do that. If you meet the eligibility, which again is at least 75K in revenue, at least 2 employees, and at least 2 years in business, then we'll move you on to kind of the second round. And we do interview all candidates as well. So that's the process for applying.
I would highly recommend and encourage women entrepreneurs to sign up for that program. I mean, it's Goldman Sachs, which is like the Ivy League in the investment financial world. And what a great opportunity to get hands-on training and feedback, immediate feedback about your business plan. So thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing that. I want to circle back to you, Terry, Bank of America. Terry, you with us with your audio? Oh, we can't hear you now, Terry. We might have to reset your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go. Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, okay.
We need to hear you because you're going to tell us about this $1.25 billion commitment Bank of America. We need to hear this. So tell us what Bank of America is doing in terms of supporting women entrepreneurs on their journey through this major investment.
Yeah, so again, thanks for having me, and I'm so sorry about my audio problems. I thought I had fixed it, but I had not, and I could hear everything you were saying, but you couldn't hear me. So year before last, after the killing of George Floyd, our CEO decided that it was time for us to double down and make a real commitment to communities of color. So our $1.25 billion 5-year initiative, among other things, increases our commitment to community health services with a special focus on communities of color, upskilling and job creation and development through partnerships with high schools and community colleges, and affordable housing and neighborhood revitalization. But also a big piece of that is supporting minority small business owners. So we do that in a couple of ways. We've celebrated over 30 years supporting diverse-owned companies through our supplier diversity program. Our company does an annual spend of $18 billion annually with third parties in the U.S. and internationally. And of that $18 billion spent, $1.2 billion is with diverse women-owned and minority-owned businesses. They have a development pipeline, and so I'll be sure to send all of this information to Antoinette. But one of our partners here that's really key in Atlanta, so I represent the Atlanta market. Bank of America has 92 markets in the U.S. footprint, so I'm part of the major markets here in Atlanta. The Greater Women's Business Council. So it's key for organizations to network and to be a part of these councils so that they'll have access to these types of opportunities with our supplier diversity programming. They work with some other councils here, but Greater Women Business Council and Georgia Minority Supplier Diversity Council are really in lockstep with our supplier diversity program. So another commitment that we've made is to really help organizations who've been impacted by the coronavirus. So we've spent an additional $250 million, to provide support to organizations of all sizes, nonprofits with impacts that they've experienced. Bank of America has also formed a partnership with Athena Alliance that will sponsor 240 multicultural women and provide them with valuable mentorship, curated learning experiences, and career advancement resources to help them progress in their careers. To support entrepreneurs or female entrepreneurs, we've doubled our investment with the Tory Burch Foundation. We started this partnership in 2019 by committing $100 million in capital to connect women, small business owners to affordable loans. Locally, our partner with this program is Access to Capital for Entrepreneurs. So if you have not connected with Grace Briggs and her team, they have been receiving this capital program funding since 2019. So since the program's launch, we've supported more than 3,400 women entrepreneurs, and they've received about $57 million in loans through Access to Capital and other CDFIs across the country. We also have a virtual skills building partnership through the Bank of America Institute for Women's Entrepreneurship at Cornell. And as a result, we've had really great success. We've added 30,000 seats for this program, bringing the total enrollment of small business owners to 50,000. And we're also working now to develop this program in Spanish. So we feel that it's a needed program to help women business owners. We have had many women from Georgia who've also participated in this program as well. And then just two more things I'd like to mention. We have a global ambassadors program in partnership with Vital Voices. So this is working with the Sherry Blair Foundation. Because we are a global corporation, we work with women all over the globe with mentorship and microloans. And then lastly, I'd like to mention that it also is a part of that $1.25 billion initiative is our equity investments focused on minority firms, MDIs and CDFIs, to help address a persistent gap in access to growth capital. So locally here in Georgia, what that looks like, we've done investments with the Fearless Fund and Zane Venture Capital, 4C Capital. Everybody knows Killer Mike, and so the Greenwood Fund that he's established. Steel Sky is another focused on banking programs and fintech, and then Global Gen Capital. So we've been very strategic in working and establishing these partnerships. To date, $270 million has been invested with 95 of those firms. supporting under-resourced entrepreneurs. And like I said, 7 of those are located right here in Metro Atlanta.
I just need everyone to drop some dollar signs in the chat, because all I hear and I'm processing is access to capital. There are resources available thanks to Bank of America, thanks to Goldman Sachs, who are providing opportunities. Women, we need this. So Terry, and I think someone dropped it in the chat, the website. Oh yeah, La Destiny, Karen. Yes, drop those dollar signs.
You know what? I would like to say that I'm using the bank's network, and we do not have access to chat. That they turn that function off because it's a risk for financial firms. So if you have a question, just ask me, or if Antoinette, please feel free to provide my email address, and I'll, get you some answers. Like I said, Atlanta, because we have such a need in Atlanta, and here at the bank, we use, if you're not familiar with the Raj Chetty study, Atlanta is 49th out of 50 in terms of economic mobility. I think we trade off with Charlotte sometimes. So, additional resources are coming to those markets. We have some pilot programs that we'll be launching soon. I'll be sure to keep Antoinette, one of our new partners, through our $1.25 billion initiative, abreast of all that we have to offer for her members. And but feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Thank you so much, Terry, for that information. I also want to mention that Bank of America is one of WEOP's sponsors, so we're so grateful for Bank of America's support, resources, information, and just for your presence today, Terry. I now want to transition to Emily O'Leary. Emily, you have a very interesting background in that you are the owner and CEO of Green Clean Solar, which is a male-dominated industry, the solar industry. You started the company, you sold it, but tell us what you're doing now to support women entrepreneurs, and the various pathways and programs you are facilitating to support women in business.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me. I feel very honored to be part of this community. And how I got involved is I had met with Representative Kim Schofield maybe about 6 months ago, and she is a huge advocate for solar in her areas, in her constituents, and to have more solar in her area. So she came to me and we talked and kind of brainstormed to see, what we need to do, because here in Georgia, it is absolutely booming with solar. More on the commercial side with the solar fields, rooftops. We're about the 10th state in the United States as far as solar, but when it comes to residential, we fall way, way down on the list. And so Representative Kim Schofield has offered to create a bill that could allow more solar into her area. So we talked about some of those initiatives too. But just to give you a little bit about my background, you mentioned Green Clean Solar. So this is a company I just started on February 1st and launched it. Now, before that, I started another solar business back in 2016 called Sunshine Solar. And so the purpose for that business was to be mechanical installers, meaning our niche in the market was to build these rooftops, these carports, these solar fields, and nobody was really doing it. And I just knew that solar was kind of the wave of the future. And so I started this business with a partner, and our very first job was the Mercedes-Benz Stadium was in the process of being built. And part of that component was having a renewable project. And so the carport, you can see it now, it's off of Ivan Allen Street, downtown Atlanta. And that was my very first project. And so we built that and was very happy of the outcome. And that really opened the doors to where we started to work for some of the companies that you mentioned. Like we went out to California and did a massive solar rooftop for Amazon. And then we traveled to Colorado and did rooftops for Target stores. And then we built carports for Blue Cross Blue Shield. We did one 6 months ago for Verizon during COVID, which was crazy because there was no employees working there, right? Everybody was home. And this was the perfect time to build the solar parking lot for them. Now we built it and we left. So I don't know if the office in Alpharetta is back in work, but I would just love to see the employees when they came back to work to be like, oh my gosh, what happened to our parking lot? So anyhow, but through the years of building up Sunshine Solar, I decided to sell it. So I sold it in January of 2020, stayed on as the CEO, and sold it to an oil and gas individual who wanted to get out of that sector and get into renewables. So he bought the company, I stayed on. And during that time, I started to think about the industry and what we do when we build a solar field or a carport or whatever. Well, the kind of the dirty secret of all these big solar projects is that there is so much waste and trash that literally gets hauled off in a dumpster to a landfill. And it just doesn't make any sense because here we're building these magnificent solar efficient systems, but then we're turning around and throwing dumpsters and dumpsters of waste from building these systems into the landfill. So that's where I started Green Clean Solar, to be able to provide waste management services and landfill diversion services. So I'm really excited. And also, I want to support, train, empower women to come into this space, because we have 2% of women in Georgia that are working in solar. And I can't reiterate, and I tell this when I, talk to Representative Kim Schofield, of how important we need to bring women into the space, because every phone call, every meeting, 99% of it is men. And we have so much to offer into this industry. And so I will do whatever it takes to bring women in here, train them, give them the tools, the necessary training that they need to be able to come in here, because you can come from all sorts of background. I have a very good friend who has been in real estate like her whole life. And she's like, Emily, I'm done selling homes. I've had my license for 30 years. And I said, guess what, Mary Ellen? We need someone who is a real estate agent who can sell land to these big developers. So she was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll work with the farmers in South Georgia. I'll be their advocate. I can show them, what they can do with their land. So again, there's so many cross skills that women have that can bring into the solar industry. And it's just a matter of getting them contacts, networking, whether getting some of these bills passed to be able to do more in the state. But just in Georgia, I'm telling you, there's billion-dollar companies that are coming from out of state and building these massive projects. And we don't have the workforce that will support these type of initiatives. So I started also a nonprofit organization called Solar Power Chicks. And the whole purpose is to, like I said, train, support, give them a platform where they can, share their stories. So that's kind of it.
That's kind of it. First of all, congratulations, Emily. Your company is brand new. Hello. Congrats to that. Congrats to you on that. And that also is a flag to me that you're likely hiring, right? So you need some women on your team to support these initiatives and the work that you're doing in this male-dominated industry. Let's crank up that statistic from 2%, right?
Yes.
So how can I see your website in the chat? So if anyone who's watching or anyone participating today, if they want to contact you for any opportunities or partnership or collaboration, should they reach you through greenclean-solar.com?
Yep. Or the other one, Solar Power Chicks.
I love that,
and one
by the
thing
way.
about Thank you. Well, I'll tell you this really exciting thing that I did. I was trying to get a group of representatives to come and take a tour of some of these solar projects because they're magnificent. I mean, it's amazing how massive these projects are. You probably see them off 75. Even if you get into the South rural area, these projects, there's like 800 acres worth of solar projects. And so I wanted to let people know this is what is happening here in Georgia. So I'm trying to get a group together and do a tour. But one of the things we did is we did filming. I hired a TV producer to capture this. I had one lady who does the electric. She has her own business here in Georgia, Tanya Hicks. I don't know if anybody knows her, but she's got an electrical company. And then we also interviewed a project manager where she was boots on the ground, and just getting her thoughts, because like again, she came from a whole different industry and now she's out there managing these massive projects. So we did filming for 2 days, and I've got this great video just to capture the stories, because I think the more us women who are in it, even though it's small, if we share our stories, we can inspire others to do and get into this field. But you'll hear electrical vehicle, that's booming. It's just so much when it comes to renewable in this state that I hope we can kind of come together through organizations like WEOP and support one another for this booming industry.
Thank you so much, Emily. So Antoinette mentioned that Tanya Hicks is a WEOP member.
Oh, good,
So
good. Yeah,
that's wonderful.
She's a mover and shaker, so I that wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, she got a contractor of the year, I heard. And again, someone who's a trailblazer in a very male dominant business. She's really opened a lot of doors. So I'm glad to know her and just support women like her in this organization.
Well, thank you so much, Emily, for sharing that and for being open and supportive to women of color in business, and for creating opportunities and programming efforts. We are going to wrap up this conversation. Thank you so much, Jessica, of the National Director of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Initiative. Thank you so much, Terry of Bank of America, and that $1.2 billion. Hello, sister. And thank you again, Emily, Solar Powered Chicks. It was so great just learning from all of you and for learning about all the resources that are available for women in business. Thank you so much for your time today. And we will now transition to our next conversation. So we talked about civic engagement. We've talked about resources and access to capital. Now we're going to talk about women working behind the scenes, providing programs that support women in business, networking, etc. And I know that one of our speakers is not with us, but we do have two others, Dr. Karen Seditol. Did I pronounce that right, Dr. Karen?
So Carol is with us too. Everybody's here.
Oh, okay. I just received a note. Okay.
Oh, because I just let her in.
Okay, great. So Dr. Karen Seditol, she's the interim dean at Emory University's Wayzata Business School, and I really love her bio. She's performed pioneering research into the field of performance measurement and reward systems, the role of forecasting and budgetary systems within organizations, and control and interorganizational collaborations. Welcome, Dr. Karen. Carol Thompson is the area director for the Small Business Administration Office, the Government of Contracting in Atlanta. She has over 32 years of contracting and business development experience, and she served as the National Program Manager for the Mentor Protege and Business Link programs. Welcome, Carol. And we also have Jamika Chamako. She's the Director of Informatics and the Executive MBA candidate at Emory University. And we are so glad to have all of you with us today to talk about resources and networks. Carol, I will start with you. Your role at the SBA's office is so important. Will you tell us about how small business owners can maximize opportunities by leveraging government resources?
Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Yes, I would love to talk about how you can leverage your resources. First of all, you have to know the players. You have to know who's involved. I'm the area director for the Southeastern states, which is the 8 states, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. But we have what's called procurement center reps. We have what's called commercial marketing reps. We have size specialists and a host of others that assist, business opportunity specialists if you're an 8A firm. But they have so many ways that they're involved in helping small businesses to maximize their practical opportunities. First of all, the procurement center reps, they're not liaisons to one business. They're liaisons to every business, to all small businesses. They provide the information that is needed for small businesses to increase their revenues. They also serve as a voice for small businesses whenever there's contracting issues or any type of discrepancy with government agencies. We're there to help the small business. We do COCs, certificate of competencies, where the agency may say that you're not ready financially, technically, ready to take on a contract. We do an independent analysis and we say, oh yeah, you are, you're ready. And then that contract has to go to that small business. So we're there for you in a variety of ways. We have COC specialists, which size specialists, we have CMRs, commercial marketing reps. A lot of you don't know how to get your best maximum practical opportunities out of being a subcontractor. Well, that's what we have commercial marketing reps to help you find out how you get to those prime contractors, how you get business with those prime subcontractors. We review subcontracting plans, which they all have to have over a certain dollar amount just to make sure that you're provided the maximum practical opportunities. We do counseling. We have financial assistance. So it just depends on what it is that you need and what direction you want to go in. But don't forget, government contracting is always here to assist small businesses in every way that we can through all of my staff members.
Would you, approximately how many government contracts are available within the state of Atlanta alone, Ms. Carroll?
Well, I don't have those statistics, up-to-date statistics with me right now, but I do know that there are billions of dollars being spent in federal government contracting here in the state of Georgia. So that's money that you all should be getting a piece of, okay? That's money that you could be getting a piece of.
So, more dollar signs. And Ms. Carroll, you mentioned something earlier about a certificate, or is it that women have to have an SBA certificate to apply for these contracts?
I think what you're referring to may be the Women-Owned Small Business Program certification. Okay. That's different.
That's different.
The certificate of competency is different. The certificate of competency is something that once you have bid on a contract and the agency, the contracting officer may not feel that you have all the adequate resources to perform that contract. That's when my office comes in and we do what's called an independent analysis or certificate of competency. And we tell them you can, yay or nay, you can do the contract and we back you up. Or we'll say, no, you can't do the contract, so it can't be awarded to you. And we'll tell them to move on to the next small business.
In a way, you serve not only as a liaison, Ms. Carroll, but as an advocate too, to ensure that women who are qualified are being awarded these contracts.
Well, one thing that I want to really drill down is that if you get that certification, there are contracts that you get without competing for. Mm-hmm. There are agencies, government agencies come looking for you. 4.5 million and 7 million. So You need to get that certification, if nothing else, but to let somebody come look for you. Now, mind you, it's better and it comes faster if you market to the government agencies. But there are instances when you're not marketing and they come out looking for you because they're looking for someone with your specific capabilities, your specific NAICS code, your specific trade. So those are the type of contracts you would receive using government contracting.
That's wonderful. And I just found information online on the SBA's website about how you can win contracts. So thank you, Ms. Carroll, for sharing that information. And I encourage every woman to secure the appropriate, to participate in that program for SBA certification, because that's automatic in, and you can rise to the top. You don't have to worry about competing, because I know it's competitive too to get that contract. But if you have that certificate in your hand, that's like buying power, really. Okay, I'm going to move now to Dr. Karen. Dr. Karen, you are the School of Business at Emory. Talk about the school's partnership with WEOP.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Antoinette, for the invitation to be here. And I am really excited to announce that Antoinette and I have formed a formal partnership between Gosweda Business School and WEOP. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to exchange resources, to give WEOP and WEOP members sort of first access to some of the programming at Gosweda that I'll be telling you about in just a moment, including pipeline to our new Peachtree Minority Venture Fund. We're talking about holding events together. We're planning a pitch competition, I believe. And then also I'd like to, this might be down the road a little bit, also think about the ways in which we can engage with WEOP on the research front, because we are an educational institution. We have faculty, myself included, or who are interested in this idea of, how do we get equitable access to capital markets, for example. And so I think that this could have the opportunity here to do something really special by way of learning more about the ecosystem in the Atlanta area and how we can improve it for the local businesses here, including the women-owned businesses.
Dr. Karen, can you talk specifically about this 1 million Peachtree Capital Venture Fund? I'm really curious to learn more about that.
Yeah, okay, so the Peachtree Minority Venture Fund, it's brand new initiative. This was actually came out of a student initiative. And the idea is that we want to provide our students some experiential learning opportunities to learn how to be venture capitalists, run a venture fund. But at the same time, we want to teach them about how to do this in an equitable way and how to tap into and support Black, Latinx, and Native American entrepreneurs. So it is a student-led venture capital fund, which means it's also an educational initiative. It's actually part of a course that we're offering to our students. But it really is aimed at addressing what we all know to be true, that people of color have very little access to venture capital funding in this country. So we're trying to, I guess, maybe build the next generation of venture capitalists and train them in a way so that we can begin to disrupt these past patterns. So it is in full swing. We launched just this semester. So it's, as I said, brand new. The student cohort, as part of this course have already heard from investors about how to be a venture capitalist, but how entrepreneurs in turn pitch their ideas to venture capitalists and pitch and sell the value behind their venture. So we have set aside as a school $1 million from our endowment, and the students under very strict kind of governance of the university have authorization to invest. I believe it's up to $100,000 this academic year in this first year. So the students have organized themselves. We have a charter. We have 5 managing partners, all students. We have a full cohort of 24 students. Some are serving as senior associates. We have, I think, 18 of those are analysts who will be doing the research about these different ventures. These are students from our BBA undergraduate program, our MBA programs, and also I think we have some students from the law school. And of course, faculty oversight, and also oversight from a board that we have formed or in the process of forming that's largely comprised of alumni. So there's no certain kinds of businesses that the students will be looking for. They are looking to support local businesses. And I heard our student leader talk about it as the way he's thinking about it is a first check of where small businesses, entrepreneurs go to access venture capital funding, but also with the aim of opening even more doors for these business owners and connecting them to a network. We've received, I understand, something like 50 applications so far. And again, this is just since maybe they opened it in December, but it's very, very recent. And the application, my understanding is it's really on a rolling basis. But however, we are an academic institution, so keep that in mind that you're probably better off applying if you're interested at the beginning of the semester, a normal semester, either in the fall or the spring. So that's our Peachtree Minority Venture Fund.
That is dynamic. And I want to bring in Jamika now to speak to from the student perspective, because Jamika, you are an executive MBA candidate, and I want you to talk about how your role with WEOP is your work as a student, and then your role with WEOP, and how you've received mentorship and support to help you along your business journey as a woman of color and as an entrepreneur.
Thank you. Well, first, I just want to say thank you to everyone on this panel, as well as a special thanks to Antoinette for bringing me into WEOP and giving me just the opportunity to work with the organization. So my role specifically with WEOP, I will be serving in the capacity of an intern, where I will focus on providing strategic thinking towards the alignment of partnerships and collaborations and relationships that will advance the mission of WEOP. So one of the things that Antoinette spoke about earlier around the importance of strategic partnerships, like the one that Dean Settle just spoke of, is so important just in terms of advancing economic or having economic advancement for women of color. My perspective, just from a student, and my background is in technology. So business and tech and developing technology solutions to support people in the global health space, so to advance health equity. And so having the right strategic partnerships in place in terms of the funding to be able to deliver on work, and in terms of your business itself, to have the right funding to support your business and to develop out what you need from a resource perspective is just really critical. So I'm looking forward to being a part of WEOP and providing consultation, and just in terms of how we can better those alignments in terms of relationships and getting the right resources to women entrepreneurs.
And Jamika, I know that WEOP is excited to have you on board. I'd like for you to speak about your experience as it relates to mentorship, whether a woman is a new entrepreneur or a veteran entrepreneur. At some point in her journey, she has had a mentor that has helped her. So can you talk about how mentors have impacted your personal and professional growth?
Yes, mentorship has been absolutely critical to my personal and professional growth. I've been mentored since I was a child. And what do I mean by that? By having a strong community of women around me, giving me guidance and giving me opportunity to develop out my leadership skills, and specifically having a voice and being empowered to use my voice. So throughout my career, I've had targeted mentors just in terms of sponsoring me for opportunities. I've had people investing in me, just giving me opportunities through resources, through stretch roles, and of course, something just as like this with Antoinette, coming into a new community to network and meet people and get exposure to resources that are out there that can align with what I'm doing professionally and the growth of my own leadership and impact. So, specifically for me, from a mentorship and leadership perspective, it's all about, how do I build influence and help others thrive? And so the mentorship that has been given to me is something that I also aim to give to others.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jamika. That was amazing. And Dean Seditol, I should be more formal. I'm sure that you have supported Jamika in her journey there at Emory, and will be instrumental in her growth, both personally and professionally. I want to loop back to you, Carol, as we're looking at government support and the opportunities and resources that are available. What would you advise women do today? What's something they could do today that would take a few minutes to get them on the right track and preparing them to secure a government contract?
Well, the first thing that I would advise is that they take advantage of every opportunity available to them. A lot of people feel like, why should I get certified as a 8A, service disabled vet? Why should I get certified? Because there's money there to be made, and you don't ever want to turn it down. You always want to be there and be prepared. And when it's sole source contracts, and all of those programs that you would be privy to without having to do anything or compete for them, that is why you would do those type of things. But I have a shameless plug that I have to get in here real quick.
Okay.
I have just sent Antoinette Ball a document that will give you all the information you need, because this is not enough time when you're on a panel. And I know I spoke real fast to talk to you about what PCRs can do for you, CMRs can do for you, what everyone on my team can do for you, and everyone in SBA's government contracting, because we're here to help you get those maximum practical opportunities. But if you don't know we're here and you don't realize what it is we do, it means absolutely nothing. So I sent you a cheat sheet so that you would know what you needed to know about government contracting and what we can do to help you out.
That is great. So you have no excuses because Ms. Carol sent you a cheat sheet. Thank you for sharing that. It's all about maximizing opportunities and taking advantage of what we say it's free money out here, right? But you have to work for it. Dr. Karen, going back to you, Dean Seditol, you mentioned a program earlier before we were talking about the Peachtree Minority Venture Fund. There's a program through the business school that women entrepreneurs can take advantage of. Is that correct?
Well, actually, Lindsay, we have a couple of things that,
okay.
And it sort of depends.
Tell us.
Yeah, it sort of depends on kind of the stage of your venture. But we have a program that's been very successful, been around for a number of years called Start Me. And this is a program that's really for very, very small, ME stands for micro entrepreneurs. So those in the beginning phases of the entrepreneurship journey. And it's an intensive 14 session business accelerator program. And it's a place-based in the sense that we run this program in 3 different Atlanta area communities, Southside Atlanta, Eastlake, and one up in Clarkston. But we provide training on everything from how to write a business plan, how to make a pitch, marketing, accounting, which is my area of expertise, investing. So just a lot of really great educational opportunities. We've had 75 people participate as mentors. So participants in this program get one-on-one mentoring. We have about over 300 alumni of this program, small businesses. 82% of those are owned by people of color, 72% of those are women. 46 of them are bricks and mortars, but according to our records, we've created those organizations, those small businesses have created over 500 jobs and bring in about 10.4 million in annual revenue into the Atlanta community. So I can provide a link to that in just a moment. We also have some training in a startup launch accelerator. So this is, again, an education-based program. We do everything from business model development, some design thinking, some skills, for example, qualitative interviews, quantitative interviews, how to get to know your customer, how to use metrics to show that your company is gaining traction. This program is held on our campus. The final admission deadline is actually, I think, today. But if anybody is interested in this, I might know somebody at the school who might be able to get you a little bit of an extension. But the thing about this one, though, is at least one member of your team that participate in this has to be affiliated with Emory. So either a student, alumni, faculty, or staff member. So it is limited to Emory affiliated teams, or at least teams that have an Emory affiliation. And then lastly, a raise forum. This is purely focused on providing capital. It focuses on companies with proven business models that are ready to scale up. So these are companies looking for investments from between 500,000 to up to even 5 million. And this is really just, a matching program where we bring in interested investors. I think there's a screening process. So you have to apply to this program and you get the opportunity to make your pitch to these interested investors. And then they award monies as they see fit. So the next one is going to be held in May of this year. And I think that there's a link that you can apply to see if you qualify for that program. So, programs focus on educational opportunities, but also in providing capital.
Wonderful. More resources, more opportunities. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Karen. There are great programs through Emory. The Small Business Administration Office is available to support you. And Jamika, just want to close this conversation with you. Any final thoughts or words of advice for women entrepreneurs?
Yes, I would say if I had to give 3 things, practice self-care, invest in yourself, invest in others, and network. Don't be afraid to use your voice. Don't be afraid to speak up and, ask for what you want and ask for what you need and move forward with your vision. Holding on to your why and understanding your why is just going to be so important, and taking care of yourself and your well-being is absolutely critical to you moving forward with your business. So I wish everyone the best of luck and fortitude as they move forward.
Thank you so much for those words of advice. Self-care is so important. And as entrepreneurs, we don't follow a traditional schedule. So we have to carve out time to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others and run our businesses effectively and efficiently. Thank you so much to the 3 of you for sharing this wealth of information and for empowering and encouraging and inspiring the women of WeOp who are on watching this forum today. Thank you so much. Transitioning now to her perspectives, our final conversation. We're closing out, we're getting some perspectives from 2 entrepreneurs and women who are community minded, and really how we can make the world a better place as women entrepreneurs, looking at the future and what strategies and approaches we can implement now to set ourselves up for success. So joining us for this conversation are Renzi Richardson, RR. She is the business owner of BHFL Group LLC, and Tamika Taylor, who is a program strategist for the Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having me. And I do apologize, sorry for not being on screen. I had horrible bandwidth, so I jumped on my phone. So we're just gonna have to roll this way. But otherwise, I would love for you all.
Okay, no problem. This is the world we live in. We are flexible. So we'll start with, and that was Tamika, by the way, who's on the phone. So Ms. Renzi, RR, let's start with you and talking about President Biden's strategy to increase contract opportunities. We know this is a game changer for women and minority-owned businesses. Can you speak more to that and how that will open so many more doors for our demographic?
Yes, thank you so much for that question too. When President Obama came into office, President Biden, you know where my mind is.
Yes, ma'am, we do.
So when President Biden came into office, one of the things that he wanted to do was put in place around the executive order for diversity, inclusion, and equity is in also accessibility. And so how that plays out in the federal space is making it easier for women and minority-owned businesses to access contract opportunities. One of the things that, and I know what he says, but there are some hurdles we have to get over. As an example, one of the things that I've been putting out there on LinkedIn and social media is #FirstContractAward. Because I'm a certified supplier diversity professional now, I get to see information. I get to see different kinds of information. And I saw a report card from SBA and they gave themselves an A, saying that they met all of these numbers and that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that I started asking, I said, well, this is an A, but what are the numbers when you can show the new contractors who won their first contract? And through a lot of going back and forth, they do not measure, first contract award. That's like you saying, okay, I signed up to be a contractor, a woman-owned small business, and I'm interested in going into the federal space. Well, from day one that you go in, that you are taking that journey in the federal space to the time that you win your first contract, there's no measurements or metrics. And so I've been putting out on social media #FirstContractAward, because that's how you tell if you're inviting new contractors to the table. That's how you measure that. But if you're using the same minority demographics to check those boxes every year, then it looks like you're meeting your requirements. And honestly, I call that a false positive. In my opinion, I think it's a false positive. So President Biden has this executive order, and he is also looking at ways in terms of how to facilitate more women and minorities to get businesses. But I think part of it also has to be a paradigm shift, because if you've got contractors who are used to doing things a certain way, or just because there's an executive order, that doesn't change behaviors. So my thing is that I've been pushing hard to see what I can do to, impact change or to get the voice out there, First Contract Award. And if it's anything that we can do collectively to keep throwing it out there, because that's how you know whether you're bending the curve, is to be able to have on this report card where now agencies are measuring whether the time that you enter either through a supplier diversity program or enter it into the federal government as a woman-owned or minority-owned business, or even veteran, to say what was that timeline for you to get to that first contract award. And so that's my interest. That's what I've been advocating for. And as much as I can, shout it out and get it out there in the atmosphere, that's what I'm doing, because I just think until we know that, we just don't know, how successful women and minorities are in being able to navigate through the federal space. We don't know that. And I just want it to change. And it can't be that difficult. You've got these metrics, and one more metrics is not going to, make a break, their KPIs.
Wow. Well, you continue to raise your voice and advocate, Renzi, because we don't know what we don't know. But if there are women like you who will help us and educate us about the opportunities, the business contract opportunities facilitated through the government, then that's a game changer. And that will certainly open more doors and opportunities and increase the number of women-owned small businesses across the country. Tamika, I would like to transition to you, your work at Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation. involves programming for entrepreneurs and business owners. What are some of those, what do those programs rather look like, and how can women participate or sign up for them?
Our programs are essentially community driven. We did a needs assessment of how to best serve the community businesses in the local Los Angeles area. And we found along the Crenshaw corridor, which is almost like a mini Black Wall Street, that a lot of our Black owned businesses, owner operators in Los Angeles, the real estate is very expensive. So they may be sitting on $2 million worth of real estate, and they're only turning over, maybe 60K or so in revenues in a year. And after not paying themselves, maybe paying their overhead, they were over leveraged, and they found that they weren't necessarily successful. They didn't have succession planning, especially when COVID hit. These were not necessarily businesses that were on the internet or used technology. They were basically mom and pop walk-ins. And we looked at this and said, wow, we want to save these businesses. So we started a legacy business program completely focused on this one corridor. So the idea was to provide like wraparound business services, accounting, redeveloping websites, sometimes even creating websites, coming up with different ways for them if they were food service programs, to have them maybe do delivery, connect with the local council offices so that we had a segment of persons who couldn't get access to food during COVID. So the elderly, the sick, so they were actually doing meal delivery, meal prep. So we really looked at how to pivot and keep them in business. And from that, we were able to be very, very successful. We actually partnered with the national organization, LISC. They helped support the program. And there were several pilots like this in each part of the city based on the needs of the demographic in that city. And I think we've been very successful in that. In addition to that, we have what's called a First Time CEO series, where we actually give anyone who's interested the opportunity to operate a business through a mock business plan exercise. You're actually doing the work in a cohort, you're getting feedback, and it's not like you do the work at home alone. It's like a group process, and it's really good because we have our businesses, they are able to network, bounce ideas off of each other. It's just a really good peer learning group, and the energy is really good, and it actually is a guided learning process so that they can go back, and as they're working on their business plan, they're actually working in their business as well. So it's a really good facilitated peer learning process. It's kind of like a hybrid of a lecture, peer group, and you're working in your business at the same time. So that's been successful as well.
And hands-on makes a huge difference too, in practical experience, and peer-to-peer learning also make a huge difference in one's outcome and business success. Looping back to you, Renzi, how long, I'm just curious to know, how long does it take for a small business to secure a contract?
That's just it. We really don't know the metrics. And when I say that, yeah, there are companies who have been pretty, have been successful, okay? But is it by happenstance, or can you say there's an average? It takes an average from, starting here in it takes you about 2 years to get a contract. But we don't know that for sure. And if I tell you that, I'm guessing. I'm guessing what it is, but we don't know that. But there is a system to understanding how to navigate in the federal space. And part of it also is understanding, we have to do our part too. Part of it is the government, but it's on us too. As an example, sometimes when we send out our capability statement, or even when we have what we call capability briefing, and it's like, this is what we do and this is what we offer. But until you guide that contracting officer and say, okay, this is what I want you to look at, or these are the contract opportunities that we're interested in, he or she doesn't know what to do. They don't know what to do next. So you have to tell them. And the best way to let them know what opportunities that you're interested in is by looking at the forecast. And the forecasts are those opportunities that are not on the street. And by doing that, they can tell you who to talk to, whether they're the right person for that contract, or if there may be someone else who oversees that category. But if you can point them in the right direction, they can help you. And I will say, like the Department of Education, Calvin Mitchell is doing such a great job to make that organization or that agency accessible to minority women and minority-owned businesses or people who are just entering the market. He is really doing a really good job, and he has a podcast also. I call him a disruptor because he's going against some of the traditional stuff that you see people have been doing it over years, and it's somewhat antiquated. And he's going against the grain by making the Department of Education accessible, as well as leveraging advocates and his people to educate you and really educate you about how to do business with the government. One of my clients has had a wonderful experience with them. And I guess we've been working with DOE for about 3-4 months. And I say that they're probably about 85, 95% there in terms of winning a contract. We just went through the process of where they're on the short list, had to go back and answer 5 questions to ask for additional information. But I think that they're about 85, 95% there. But here again, we had people all along helping them and telling them what to do, where to go, who to talk to, how to upload documents, how to track your activity. That's the other thing. You want to be able to track your activity to let them know we're serious about, doing business with you. And by doing so, and you've got a case, you say, hey, I've done this, and this. And why is it still so difficult for us to get a contract? But when you're doing your part, it makes it hard for them not to see that activity that you're putting in.
Right. Renzi, does your business serve really as like a navigator to support business owners in helping them navigate the process?
Yes, we do. We have a business development coaching program. In that program, I teach you everything that I know and what has been successful in helping you to understand how to navigate, how to have the calls. Even when you're doing a telephone call, don't ask yes, no questions. Ask open-ended questions because you want to engage them in a dialogue, okay? And so that program, it teaches you how to engage in that business development strategy and how to go about engaging those contracting officers and having them to become your advocate for you. And that's what happened with Ms. Suarez. She became my client's advocate and, opening doors, the introduction, the transfer of trust from one known person versus you if you're unknown. So that transfer of trust, it really matters.
Wonderful. Well, those of you who would need a business coach, please consider Renzi Richardson, who can consult you and to help you navigate the many, many layers and processes as relates to securing that contract. I want to close this conversation with you, Tamika, about looking beyond, looking at projecting to the future. What can women business owners do better, different, to help position them for success in the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say that you have to be an advocate. So you have to be able to really, I like what Renzi was saying about the impacts, because here in LA, we do a lot of matchmaking events. We do a lot of meet the primes, and we found out that there is no measurement. How many people, not even first-time contractors, how many people actually got contracts after spending the time, maybe going after an RFP, maybe paying someone to do a cost analysis and all this upfront money. So when you're speaking to the procurement officers, when you actually get the ear of the people who are the decision makers, don't be afraid to say, hey, I've been trying for such and such a time, so it's somewhat difficult. What can I do different? What can I do better? Take the procurement officers out to coffee and say, hey, what do you used to see in a successful business? What is the usual time frame? Because I estimate the usual time frame is 2 to 5 years for your first contract, because usually they do require that you have at least 2 years experience for certain certifications, et cetera, 2 years of financials and certain certifications. So also, don't be afraid of what you don't know. So anywhere that you can get any piece of information, you should be at any table where you think you can gather just a little bit of information. You may think, oh, I'm scared, or these people know more than me, or they're the VPs, they're the this, they're the that. When just because someone has a label, don't mean that they didn't start where you are. So don't be afraid to walk up to anyone and shake their hand, ask for their business card, engage them. And it doesn't have to be a long conversation. Just say, hey, I'm new at this. Can you give me some advice? And people are usually, when someone is engaging with you in a networking situation, they usually want something. Very few people just want advice. They want a contract. They want a meeting. Just say, hey, what advice can you give me? And that can really, really, really open up a door for you. And that's also another form of advocacy, because you're saying, hey, I want to be seen. I want to know what you do. And that's a different type of strategy that I think that women need to pursue. And like I said, you just have to know what you know, and anything that you don't know, there's someone out there that can help you. There's so many women that have been through, 5 and 10 years of trying to get their first contract. They know the wrong doors. They know the frustration. They can relate to you, and just finding someone that you can link up with that really want to help, because a lot of the information, a lot of things that I have learned over the years came from women that have been there, done that. They're like, hey, they're not going to work with you. Hey, they only give their contracts to XYZ. Hey, they're not as effective as this group over here. Or you might want to go here. You might want to go there. So I do find among women, there is a camaraderie that exists that doesn't exist with men. Sometimes we can be the smartest person in the room, but if the room is not reflective of women, of minorities, of inclusion, sometimes it's almost as if our voice isn't heard. But don't be afraid to speak up, to advocate, to network, and don't be afraid of not knowing, because it's new for everyone, especially when you're getting into the contract and starting a small business. And as long as you learn from your mistakes, don't feel bad about it. I know so many of my colleagues and cohorts who have started a certain way, pivoted, and 5 to 7 years down the line, they're like, wow, I started with this idea and now it's this, and it's so much bigger and greater than what I even thought. So I would end it with that. Just really, really advocate. Don't be afraid of what you don't know, and there's always someone out there to help you.
Nancy, can I jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
I have to add this because I really want to emphasize the fact that as women of color, that if you're not ready to pursue a prime contract, then subcontracting is a viable alternative, which is so important, because through subcontracting, a lot of the prime contractors are mandated by federal law to ensure a certain percentage of contracts to minority and women-owned, economically disadvantaged-owned businesses, which means that you can qualify for a contract. It could be a sole source, a set aside, a simplified acquisition. And also, you don't have to assume, because some of these contracts are huge. If there's a $10 million contract, you're just not going to have the capacity. So if you can work with the prime contractor and come in for $1 million subcontract, then that's a valuable resource for you. You just have to understand how to navigate the process. And that is why I just have to plug in for WeUp, because we do have a proprietary primetime course where we train women to navigate that entire system, which gives them an understanding of how to play the game. We don't want you to go in not prepared. And Rency is one of our coaches that we utilize, instructors that we utilize on a regular basis to make sure that we are advancing this information for our whole audience, so they know how to navigate just as well as the counterparts to navigate these systems to get the opportunities that they deserve to get. So just kind of wanted to add that into the conversation, because sometimes we overlook, we're thinking, oh, I have to get the first a prime contract, because they're thinking they have a subcontract is small. It could be huge. And Rency could speak to how huge subcontracts can be, right, Rency?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the quotes that I use, get in where you fit in, okay? Yeah, it's ideal that if we want these big contracts, but then the next thing is that, do you have the financial capability to carry a big contract? So I always say, get in where you fit in. And the low-hanging fruit is the simplified acquisition, blanket purchase agreement. And sometimes, even as another tip that I'll tell you, if you submitted a bid for a contract and you didn't win that, go back to that contracting officer and say, yes, I know you awarded this contract to this vendor here, but do you have, will you have similar contracts, or do you have simplified acquisitions that are similar to this, that are part of your forecast for this year? So even though you may not have won that one, you still want to continue to have that conversation with that contracting officer. But one of the things that I like about what Antoinette and WEOP does is that we can go around and chase our tail for days and days and days on end, okay? But if you don't have a strategy that is going to focus you and a roadmap to focus you, you're wasting so much valuable time. And over time, you get worn out. And when you get worn out, you get disengaged in your business. And what we're saying is that use our expertise, our experience, and what we do to help you to eliminate some of that action that causes you to go into circles and stuff.
And I can attest that Antoinette's, their curriculum is one of the best. I sit on a couple of, and I've taught her this several times. I mean, it's outstanding. She has done all of the groundwork for you. She lays it out in a very easy to digest and understand methodical manner. She is an excellent coach and teacher. And we talk about contracting all the time. And she is so right about the subcontracting opportunities, getting in on joint ventures. And I do sit on some policy boards, and that is one of my recommendations, is that in the beginning, when the prime set up their, when they're going after these monies, that they bring their subcontractors in the beginning of the whole process so that they can understand the process, because there is a trend here for small business utilization where they're calling our businesses about 24 hours before the project is due for submission. So they don't even have time to compete. That means that they can pass them over and go to the next person on the line because they've done their due diligence or best efforts, quote unquote, to reach out to a minority firm. So I would really like to just emphasize that Antoinette is on point with everything that she's saying. A lot of our conversations I have taken to policy recommendations, but subcontracting is absolutely where it's at. It's the low hanging fruit. And it also gives you that demonstrated ability where you can go after larger contracts. And also I would recommend partnering. That way, if you don't have the capacity, you can actually leverage some of the risk. You can have someone else take on the project for you. And that way you're not so exhausted in trying to go after these contracts because you have a partner to work with you.
And one of the things you have to your advantage, if you don't have your WOSB or your EDWOSB certification, that's one of the things that you can leverage when a lot of these companies are out here wanting to play in this space and wanting to go after contracts that are set aside for women owned small businesses. So with your certification, what that does, that allows you to bring something to the table that they need, especially for set aside contracts. So if you don't have your certification, now will be a really good time for you to do it, because there are incentives also for companies like the larger companies to JV or sub with minority-owned businesses, because there are tax incentives for them to do that under the Biden administration. So that's another reason why, you know, you want to look at how you leverage your minority status as a woman.
And Wednesday, I added that when you were talking about certification, make sure you were talking about the certification from the Small Business Administration.
Yeah.
We're not speaking about third party, just from the SBA, and those certifications are free.
Yeah, and I think now the way that they've streamlined it, you could probably, if you have all of your documents, and that's the first thing to do is start with the checklist. But if you have all of your documents, you should be able to do your certification or upload everything in about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes.
Renzi and Tamika, thank you so much for this rich conversation, the information, especially as it relates to securing contracts. And I must say, just as an outsider looking in, an outsider using my journalist lens looking in, that I have learned so much information about the business space as it relates to small business ownership, and have been so inspired and empowered by and just in awe of all of the resources that are available. I'm taking notes because I think I'm going to take a lot of this information back to my senior producer, because we need to share this information with our viewership at the Black News Channel. But I will say too that being a member of WEOP does have its privileges because you have access to all of this information and mentorship and access to capital and SBA contract and navigators and counselors. So this has been so incredible. I would like to say thank you again to Renzi and Tamika for this conversation, for lending your perspective about the business world. And in closing, Tamika, you did say something that sparked another phrase in my mind. It's that networking is your net worth. So to advocate, continue to advocate for yourself and for your business. But on behalf of WEOP, thank you so much for joining our Economic Equity Forum this month. And I want to thank our supporters, which include the Coalition of Women's Economic Network, or COEN, members Kim Hughes, Juanita Phillips, Pamela Bivens, Lita Speller, Kim Schofield, our partners Keep It Moving Georgia, Emory University, the Wayzata Business School, and our sponsor, Bank of America. And we want you to stay connected with WEOP by visiting weop.org. WEOP does maintain an online portal, WEOP Women, and just keep networking, keep connecting, and also stay tuned for WEOP's next events. And Ms. Antoinette, do you have a closing thought or statement before we bid everyone adieu?
And one last thing I want to say, Renzi Richardson is also a member of our COEN network. So Renzi, thank you for all your service. And I just want to leave with the quote that amazing things happen when women come together. So we want to keep pushing and being in a leadership position of bringing these phenomenal speakers, bringing women together. And again, I just want to thank everybody for your ongoing support, because it's because of you that we're able to do incredible things. So thank you to everyone, and until next time. And Lindsay, thank you for being a great moderator. I love your style. I love your insights. So thank you so much for supporting us as well.
And thank you for the opportunity to serve WEOP. And to everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.